if you'd rather, just to make it easier, and then honestly, it'd probably be nice for Ryan, I could give him a night off where he wouldn't have to deal with this. So if that's how you'd want to go, that shouldn't be a problem since we'll be on site.
Okay. Perfect.
You are live and ready to go.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, sorry guys. Even when I take my phone up, it's not. Ah, there we go. Here I am.
Perfect. Oh, now we get to see your brace too.
Oh, sorry. I broke a bone in my wrist here a week ago, Friday, 10 days ago, so 12 days ago, whatever that is. But
Ouch.
yeah, that wasn't the worst problem, but the doctor has informed me that I need to wear this goofy thing for at least 2 weeks. So. Sarah, did you have any response from either one of the ladies?
Oh, I checked a minute or two ago. I'll look again. No, I don't have anything new from them.
All right, well, let's get started. I mean, it's 8 minutes past, and let's just get started, and hopefully they come on board here before too long. Anyway, I'm going to get this. First order of business, and I will call the meeting to order at 5:38 p.m. And the first order of business is to approve our minutes from our governing board meeting of November 19th. That was sent out with the agenda. Does anyone have any modifications to those minutes, or are we okay as written?
Look good to me.
All in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. Sarah, I think item B is on your plate, so.
All right.
The update for marketing recruiting for 2021 and 21-22.
Yes. So we had Christensen Creative started to kind of reformat the website for us. So Aaron, Dave, and I met and kind of decided how we'd like sort of the layout to function, and then kind of mocked up some of the content. And then we handed that off to Tracy, and then she got Christensen to make some of the formatting updates. And then now she's currently, I haven't looked for it today, but I believe she's currently just updating the content and the flyouts and the pieces like that. Just gonna take a quick peek here to see if any changes have been made today. So you can actually find the website and look at it yourself as well by going to hudsonraiders.org, and then under schools at the bottom is the Hudson Virtual Charter School. And then you can kind of see how the picture will look at the top, and then kind of start to see some of the new content at the very top. But there haven't been a lot of significant changes yet, so don't worry, it's coming. But to give you guys an idea of where we're headed with it in terms of content, I just linked the kind of mock-up that we worked on, Aaron, Dave, and I, and put that in there for you guys. So let me just see. Yes, that's it. So if you guys have the agenda up, you can kind of click on that and then see what we're thinking in terms of content. So this wouldn't as much be giving you an idea of how it's going to look, but just more what we're thinking it will say. So if you guys want to kind of scroll through that and then let us know your thoughts, that would be great.
As you're scrolling through that, Sarah and I met earlier this week, and one of the comments that I had for her was, you know, that picture that's on the top of the webpage there'll actually be 3 pictures there, and they'll be scrolling under some sort of a time schedule. But I question whether or not we really want to distract people with scrolling pictures when they are looking for information. And I guess I would prefer personally that we let them look for information without the scrolling pictures. I don't have any problem with putting all 3 pictures up at the same time, but I guess my preference would be, at least I know from my own perspective, looking at websites trying to find information, that distractions are entirely unnecessary. And it's just a thought I'll toss out there. I would be good to go in either direction, but
I know, Stan, one thing you mentioned too was just maybe not having them switch so quickly. You know, maybe
that
having
would
a
be
delay.
helpful. That
I don't think they're switching right now, but for the future.
I think if we're going to switch them, to leave them on for, you know, period of time is a good thing. I would actually think if they all came up over 1 minute, you know, so that they had 20 seconds apiece, that would be more than often enough.
I'm trying to form an opinion on this. I don't personally don't see a lot of upside to having a carousel at the top. But I do think there is something to be said that if you just have a website that looks at a level of produced, that it feels like, oh, they're real. I don't know that a picture, like the actual content of any pictures, is probably going to give a lot of information that people need, to Stan's point. But so I could go either way. If it's, you know, just makes the website sort of look polished, then that has value in my mind. So that's how I think it would earn its place, by sort of looking professional in my mind.
Text for the discussion that led up to the idea of the scrolling pictures. 2 things. One, it is what we have for our other schools. And since this is an instrumentality of the district, trying to keep some consistency, capitalizing on the branding that already exists for the school district. Secondly, we discussed not necessarily having them be photos, but they could be images like the logo, or so throughout. One of the problems that we have is that we don't have full control over this website. It's not like an open HTML platform. We can do whatever we want. This fits into a template that we can work within the confines of the template. And it's difficult to have the name of the academy prominent enough. So we thought if that was one of the big banners, and every 3rd time you'd be seeing the name Hudson Virtual Academy, I had to get that right, over and over again, with other images that are a little bit more prominent and speak to the mission and the vision of the academy. pictures we had in there originally were placeholders. They're the images that we've used thus far.
Is it safe to say that we'll be reducing the number of headings that are duplicated right now that says Hudson Virtual Learning Academy and also Hudson Virtual Academy and then Hudson Virtual Academy again? Looking at the actual site right now.
Mhm.
Will it just be the largest one at the top?
I have not talked to Tracy about this, so I'm not quite sure where this is headed,
Gotcha.
to be honest.
Yeah. I can see actually, so the second one that's all caps and very heavy font is the actual sort of H1 of the HTML, for what it's worth. So I'm not sure if that means that one's going to survive, but
Do you guys have a thought on which one? Because I don't think we'd be leaving 3 in a row. Thoughts on which one you like?
So if you go to the other schools, like I was looking at the middle school that does have the rotating pictures, where that first one that's right underneath the picture is a actual link to something else.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if it's meant to be like you see on other web pages with scrolling pictures, right? An article or something like that. So I don't know if that would change if you're going to put pictures up there, which I don't necessarily have an opinion on. I like looking at pictures, so it doesn't bother me at all if they're there.
It's a really good question. The pictures, the words within the picture that are not currently linked to anything else, we were like to have seen, and unfortunately it's not possible. If you look at the banner where it says Hudson School District or Hudson Schools with the shield and the logo, you'll notice that that's exactly the same at each page. We would have liked to have seen Hudson Virtual Academy in the blue bar. That unfortunately is impossible. So we're seeing how can we move it up to a position of prominence. So when you're there, it does stand out. That's one of the limitations that exists when you're working within a template like the one that we do.
I like that it says Hudson Schools at the top. I mean, I think it unifies us with everything else the district is doing. So that doesn't bother me that we can't change that, I guess, but.
That doesn't bother me either.
It's actually, it's not that bothers me. It's that the scrolling images pushes the rest of it so far down. If it were right underneath that Hudson Virtual Academy or a banner that said the name of the school, it's actually a criticism I have of the entire website because it exists for each school. It's not just our thing. It doesn't jump out that this is where I am within the web page. You know you're in the Hudson School District, but not necessarily which school.
So when to just jump right on that point, because I think that feeds into my first impression. The most prominent text, the thing that looks like the title of the page you're on, is the label that's on the carousel that slides across. So it's not actually the label for the page, the title for the page. It's a dynamic part of it's almost like this thing is just happening right now and we want you to know about it. Like this is current events, it's not you are at this page. And I maybe we can make a note because this would be easy to fix, but from an accessibility standpoint and probably a search engine optimization standpoint, we really should have on every page, not just the one we want to make, a single primary heading tag, this H1 tag. And I'm seeing that those are often absent, except for ours, because ours has all sorts of extra headings. So the big bold one is the one that is sort of the one that the structure of the page indicates is this is the title of the page you're on. So I think there's a visual issue and there's a technical issue there. Does that make sense? Sorry, I could go
I see.
deeper.
I look at the other schools now and see what you mean. Yeah, at the high school, short of the fact that there's a picture of the high school, you wouldn't know that's the high school webpage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for people who are in the district and go to those schools, that's not as big of an issue. But I think when you're coming in from the outside and you don't know what a Hudson school website looks like, and you're like, did I get to the right place, or am I just in the Hudson school? Like, I can see how that would be confusing. So yeah, anything we can do to really make sure at the top, and maybe that does mean that all of our scrolling images need to have our Hudson Virtual Academy logo on it somewhere, even if it's a little thing in the corner and a bigger image. And then one of the scrolling ones should definitely be our big logo, I think. I don't know.
I tend to agree with you, Sarah. At one point, we talked about not doing images at all, but just having like our three, like the tagline, the three prominent words, and they're embedded within the logo. So it's Hudson Virtual Academy, and then the three big words that jump out. Totally doable if that's the direction we'd want to go.
Can we choose to only do the one fixed image instead of the three in the carousel? Because I'm wondering if, because this is sort of like we're doing a little bit of trying to make up for some quirks of the template system. I wonder if we just have a permanent picture with our logo and verbiage attached to it, and that's always there. So we can sort of rely on that as like, okay, if anyone is disoriented, we always know that there's a big hero image at the top that will help. As opposed to if it's sliding through multiple images, they could reach in the state where it doesn't, we lose that like key navigational thing.
We need to say that I like that approach.
That's totally something we could mock up, because and maybe now then it might make sense to figure out what, if we go back to the document that Sarah shared where it has some of the different language that may be included in the copy, if we pick what would go in that image, that's something that Tracy could then take to Christensen, and they could create that image and then embed it there where the picture goes.
I wonder if we could still do a photograph as a background of that image and put our logo on top of it, any other motto information on top of it. Because I do think that the way it's designed, it's meant to be a photograph. It's not meant to be graphic design imagery, because it has that like gray screen that's partially translucent. That only looks good, I think, when there's a textured photo-looking background. Does that make sense? It'll be like a backdrop of photography with.
Yep.
Are you capturing that, Sarah?
We need Pete to be at the meetings, I think.
I'm sorry, I feel bad.
It's great. That's the input we need. If the board members are comfortable with the direction that Pete is suggesting, I'm wondering if maybe Pete, you could just email Sarah just a little blurb sort of describing that in language that if we pass that on to the graphic designers, they would understand. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
I did jot down single primary H1 tag.
Okay, great.
That doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, it means a little bit, but not much. And I wrote, keep the big bold one with block letters, because that's attached to the H1 tag.
I like having that over the photograph backdrop too. That's a
Mhm.
nice approach there, I think.
Now I have to take notes of everything that I was saying instead of just blithering. One other thing that I was just looking through the sort of Google Doc mock-up, if you will. I really like the bullet points, and I think that those are going to be they're going to get read fairly often, I think, is my hunch. And I think that we could probably still slim down our already pretty slim paragraphs to make them things that people won't be scared of and just ignore, because most people are going to ignore them, is the sad reality. So I'm not sure, like, I think we could just be really ruthless with our copy editing and pull out any clauses that aren't key information, and maybe we can pull out a set of bullet points or two out of some of those paragraphs. Some of it we may still want to keep just as like background, but just that feedback in terms of like, you know, me reading this Google Doc, I tend to like scan it and not actually read it, right? And that's a web page and I don't have a goal. I'm actually trying to edit it. So people are extremely lazy and goal oriented. And if they just see a button that, oh, this is next, they're going to skip right to it. So if we want them to read anything, I think we should just ruthlessly brief. And I really like that the testimonials too. And I almost wonder if those shouldn't be, you know, more prominent. Although I'm not sure what to push down, and we already do have a page that starts really low because of just the way the template works. If we did have multiple, like a carousel at the top, I would be tempted to put student testimonials as part of it. But I still think we're probably better off with a single steady image up there. Are those real, by the way?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep, they're all from my students actually last spring. In their own words.
That's
I
great.
avoided editing them.
I don't suppose we could ask or use photos of the kids' faces next to that, could we? That would really bring it to life.
I actually, that was a question I had, if I could even put like a first name. And then I didn't know if we were going to put a first name, if I needed to go back and try to ask the students. So that might be a question for Tracy.
Probably some privacy stuff we have to make sure we're okay with.
Yeah.
Parental consent or something.
But I feel like I do see on school websites where they'll use like a first name.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Is that right, Erin? Do you know?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the language in the consent for using photographs that parents fill out during registration. But we do use pictures of current students a lot.
Yeah, and I know some of these are seniors too, but we could use ones from we don't need that many, you know, of course. And I have even more than this. I just threw a few of them on there for some examples, but
I would be hesitant to have a picture and a name and a quote, because the closer you get to personally identifiable information, obviously the more challenging that becomes.
Yeah, next comes their home address, cell phone number,
Right.
Instagram handle. Sarah, can you remind me what the flyout discussion section means?
yes. So apparently flyout means okay, I'm gonna get this wrong, but when you go to HVCS on the drop down in the schools, the flyout is the list of pages you can that are linked to our school. So
Okay.
it would have an arrow to those. That was horrible. Do
So
you get what I mean?
well, I think what that is because I was looking at, like, if you go to Hudson High School and you click on that, it gives you right away Hudson High and then general info academic support across the top, where ours doesn't do that. It has the district stuff across. So I'm assuming the district stuff gets replaced by whatever our flyouts would be. And I'll be honest, when I use the website, I don't go past those. I don't even scroll down. So
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea, like, what would the big categories be that we would want to ensure were there? And then I think to a certain extent, to Pete's point, a lot of that copy that's in that Google Doc would end up living under a flyout. It wouldn't be on the main landing page.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we were picturing being on the main landing page is basically the pieces at the top down through learn, maybe ready for the next step.
I think that's great, actually. I am going to now hereby applaud your brevity and precision of, because I think that's a set of bullet points and one blurb and then here are your actions is great. And then being able to, so the nav above is going to link to these subpages. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
do we want to something for just enrollment instead of, so that if they are trying to go quick, they can just go click on enrollment without having to go into general or something like that?
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a critical one, is since it is very different than in terms of the audience than a typical school. It would make
Right.
sense.
Would you say that'd be like the second bullet point, probably? Or the second flyout, or the first one?
If you look at, like, again, I went to the high school, general info, and then academics, and then support athletics. So do you do it after academics? Maybe. I don't know. If we want consistency, maybe we don't. But they all seem to be that way.
Okay. So we should definitely move the FAQ. Okay, so we have general academics enrollment. I don't know if FAQ is necessary or not. Would that go last then?
I think you should have it because it is different.
Yeah, I think so too.
Again, I just wrote up some ideas in the FAQ section that I have there so far. It's not complete. It's just questions I've gotten from kids in the past.
Mhm.
Like if anyone's going to know what those are, it's you.
This doesn't get necessarily to the actual main subheadings, but some of the content within there could be redundant from the high school. So like the course catalog, since they can have a blended opportunity, we want to make sure that they understand that here's the full palette of available courses. So if there's things that when you navigate the Hudson High School website, like, okay, that would be important information here too, we can definitely have it live in both places.
That's hard. The only places I ever go are Skyward at the top and staff, wherever that is. So I think it's the difference between someone new. We almost need to ask some people who haven't used the website a lot.
Good point.
Anything more on the marketing side here? Any other thoughts?
In terms of timeline, I know one thing that Stan and I discussed on Monday was that it would be really amazing if we could have this ready to go for February 1st when the open enrollment window begins. So I think it's February 1st to April 16th or something. I wrote it down. I don't know if that's realistic at all, but I think people will be starting to look at next year pretty quick here. April 30th is the end of the window.
It'd be great to have this for them. And I also think that if it's imperfect at that moment, that's going to be fine. It's always going to be a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
It can't hurt to ask.
You can count on imperfection. We got you covered there.
Maybe if all three ask.
I want to say it's is it Taoist maybe? Or, I don't know, in Japanese architecture, a lot of times there's like a deliberate imperfection added at the last second. Like, oh, everything was perfect, but then we moved the doors 3 inches to the left just to say we're humble. So I like that.
In which case, we'll let Sarah have her drink of water and then give us an HVA update on course registrations for 21-22.
Yeah, so I think at the next meeting, we'll definitely have more in terms of like numbers and direction, but I just wanted to give you guys the update on the fact that this year with registration, with the high school regular registration time period and process, we incorporated the students also turning in their online course requests to the counselors. And so we've been fielding a lot of questions and having some meetings, not too many yet, but just having those conversations a lot earlier in the year regarding online courses that kids are thinking about for next year, which is really exciting because then we can move forward with checking those numbers and then seeing, kind of where's that tipping point of when it makes sense to bring in and be able to dedicate Hudson staff to teaching some of our more popular courses. So like an example, this year's pre-calculus, we have about 15 students taking pre-calculus, but we did not know that until it was way too late to try to dedicate, a Hudson teacher or class period to it. So we're really excited about that. And I just wanted to let you guys know that happened and is happening and continuing to be worked on, but kids were basically able to pick, which online courses they're interested in doing. And then if they pick 2 or more, that will kind of trigger a conversation with me and the counselor and then potentially a meeting to discuss with the students and family, especially if they're new to online learning. Those will still be happening, which I think is really key to the success of our students. So not really changing that piece, but yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
Was there any themes, Sarah, on what you saw the kids start to pick?
I haven't gotten the data yet from it, so no. I don't know if Dave or Aaron have seen it yet, but I haven't seen any numbers yet. Although I will say that from 8th graders who I had when they were 6th graders at the middle school, and then I left them and they were sad. But I had a few of them reaching out to me specifically about honors English in 9th grade. So I had several of my, previous former students asking me about that course. So that's the only theme I've noticed so far.
See.
Mm-hmm.
We're meeting next week to discuss staffing, and that's when we go over all the numbers. We'll have a better idea at that point.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, that's what I had for that one, Stan. So I don't know if there's other questions or thoughts on that, but
Anybody have any other questions? Let's move on to the Charter School Authorizer Annual Report. This is something that we're required to do by the Department of Public Instruction or somebody. It's who requires that?
the state legislature and DBI.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the good news is that the report is done and turned in, and it's already taken care of, and we only had to put in one item on the whole entire report, really. So it was easy this year, but more or less just wanted you guys to be aware of the fact that, you know, we are going to be keeping track of lots of different information for the charter school. For last year, because we weren't even up and running, we had 0 students. So really the only fees associated with the charter were sort of our legal fees. You'll see that represented on the document that's attached there. And for next year, it'll be, you know, kind of minimal again, because we only have 2 students this year, but you can kind of see where we're building toward with that in terms of our accounting and processes that we'll need to follow. So I thought Melissa might appreciate seeing that.
Super exciting.
I thought so too, especially with only one entry.
Boring is good sometimes.
Yes, indeed. All right, moving along to the item E on our agenda under item number 2, the Hudson School District mission and vision update.
I was gonna see if could I call on Dave for this one. Can you give us a little bit of an update on just where the district in general is at for that and kind of where we're at in the process? And then I was just gonna tie that in with what I'm thinking for us, maybe as some next steps.
Absolutely. And yeah, so we're in the second full year of our process of working with Studer Education Group, which is a continuous improvement group of professionals that originally supported actually the healthcare industry and branched off into education. Those are the 2 industries that they support. Their work is very prevalent throughout the nation, but a lot in Wisconsin. They actually started in Janesville, Wisconsin, but have a pretty big national presence. They're headquartered out of Pensacola, Florida. We've been working with Gail from the Studer Group, and she's been leading us through a process of redeveloping and rebranding our vision, mission, and goals. We're in a unique position that we're going about things a little bit backwards. The end result will be really solid, but it's created a process that is taking quite some time to make sure we land in the place that we want to land. So we already had a district scorecard with very specific measurable outcomes that allowed us to all be aiming in the same direction. But when we created that under HSD 2025, our previous vision, that is still intact right now, but we're refreshing that, and we'll have a new vision statement and a new mission statement. It's been good work. We're getting really close to being able to wrap that up. In fact, I would guess that within the next 2 months, we'll be able to bring something out to the public. And no big surprises in the direction that we're going. We considered our existing vision. We considered current trends. We considered stakeholder feedback. A lot went into this process. I would imagine that by the next time we meet, we may be able to actually bring something forward to you. Obviously, a lot of stakeholders were involved in this process, but nothing official to roll out at this point.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the update. That's kind of where I was thinking too. I didn't have anything to show you guys as a final product, but again, wanted to just let you know where the district is headed with that. And then also, we'll kind of touch on this with the self-assessment piece next that's coming. But I think, you know, something I see quite a bit in the governing board responsibilities or competencies that are going to be coming up is the mission and vision. And so I do think that that'll be really, hopefully good work that you guys get excited about, and having that refreshed Hudson School District mission vision goals will be really helpful, I think, to us in the process. And I'm excited to do that and to dive into that with you guys. So hopefully we can do it in person. I think that would be fun to do. So.
And speaking of our self-assessment and competencies assessment here, that's our very next agenda item. So Sarah, do you want to?
I can take a stab at starting. Yeah. So I know that this is something that we've talked about a little bit as an idea. I remember looking back at some of our old minutes. I know that Pete brought it up at one point. I know Stan and I went to some of the presentations with the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools this fall. And there were lots of different sessions about that. So that's actually what I have linked here is something from the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools. And it's a spreadsheet with some of the various competencies that the Resource Center feels will help governance boards to be effective. And by no means will we be putting all of these onto a self-assessment, but I think where we could head with this is to try to pick out some that we think are most immediately important, and then maybe build some sort of a rubric or reflection or something like that, and then have us all take it and have that be our baseline data in terms of a starting point for our board, so we can measure and see how we're doing and over time, and especially as we potentially have new members and old members mixing. I think it would be a great thing to have for some continuity along the way. So nothing is on paper really yet in terms of a finalized rubric or assessment, but again, just kind of wanted to show you guys an area that I think we could be working on next. So.
No, and I think that's good. I think the 5 that are highlighted are important and a great starting spot here. So
I highlighted those a while ago and certainly would be taking input if you guys feel like we want to highlight more or less. But then I could start, if you all wanted me to, I could start trying to work on a way to measure these, a little bit more.
Well, I think the ones that are highlighted are a very, very good start out of that very comprehensive list. We need to start somewhere, and I looked at those and said, are there any that we should cross off and choose something else? And I couldn't come up with a better list than what you have highlighted there already, Sarah. So
the one that we might think about adding at some point, and maybe it's not now, but the community engagement one might be interesting. And we've talked about that in the past, right? How do you get the word out? How do you engage in whatever it is, but how do you do that? I feel like that's something, and maybe that comes over time, but if maybe having some goals around that might not be a bad thing.
Even for the governing board, I mean, that's going to be a key piece so that we can keep building that.
Right.
Any other comments on the self-assessment?
I think we should focus on creating subcommittees as much as possible, and like subcommittees to the subcommittees. Actually, I love that we're so small that like a lot of these things are absurd because we haven't reached any vision.
So what do we assign to Shelley and Regina, seeing as they didn't make it to tonight's meeting?
Yeah.
Regina's here.
Yeah, there needs to be a penalty for not making a meeting, and you get assigned chairmanship of the subcommittee, you know?
You have to
by yourself.
review the charter contracts again.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item G, is just a discussion about the Hudson Virtual Charter School bylaws. I asked Sarah to put this on the agenda so that we could at least talk about the fact that I, as your president right now, do not want to have a set of bylaws just for the sake of having a set of bylaws and not follow those bylaws, so that we can make sure that we're getting our I's dotted and T's crossed. There is an awful lot of angst in the community, as we all know right now. And I'm sure that there are people that would be more than happy to bust our chops if we weren't following our bylaws. So I think it's very, very important that we live by the rules that we set. And with that being said, that there just needs to be some discussion and some agreement as to our officer positions and terms. There's a statement in our bylaws regarding staggered terms. So we need to think a bit about exactly what our bylaws say and what we want that to mean in reality. And if it means that we need to have a change in our bylaws, let's change the bylaws, but or live with them one way or the other. But I think it's important that we have a document that we can live with, live by, and look back at and say, yeah, that's exactly what we were doing. So. Sarah, I don't know right off the top of my head what the date was when we established our officer positions. If that became effective as of the annual meeting or some other time. And as far as that is concerned, when are our terms up? And
Mhm.
you know,
July 16th.
I
was
know the
our-
language is in the bylaws that officers can continue to hold positions and, you know, so forth, so on, but just so that everybody is aware of where we're at with all of that. I want everyone to know that we have reached out to Shelley Tugas to see what her current status is. She's got about 85 balls in the air right now. And, you know, I know she would love to stay on, but I'm not sure that she's going to be able to. So the ball is over in Shelley's court right now with what her status is going to be on our board. And I'll let everyone know as soon as we hear something definitive, but it could be, I guess, that Shelley takes the 1 year position and you know, the rest of us just do 2 and 3 and stagger somehow. I'm not even sure how, with a board our size, the acceptable staggering, what that would look like, but I'm sure that there's some documentation out there somewhere for that type of thing. So I just want to make sure that we're living and acting in accordance with our own bylaws.
Did anyone see anything in the bylaws that they were like, oh, I didn't realize that was in there, or anything, you know, that you guys feel like wasn't a good way to set out our path here.
Well, I mean, if, I'll speak again. I mean, I think the bylaws make sense. The way they're written, I mean, I know that it was boilerplate and it makes sense from a continuity perspective to stagger terms. If and when, and that day will come for all of us eventually, that we want to move on from this board, that the board is, you know, that we're not all leaving on in the same year or the same month or what have you. That just makes it difficult for us successors. But so I think there's a lot of good things in the bylaws, but there are a number of things in the bylaws that we haven't done yet. So maybe the idea here is to just have a quick work session one night and get us in compliance with our own bylaws, and everybody agrees, and we get that into a set of minutes, and we'll have something to point back to show conformance. So.
Are there any other sort of known issues besides the sort of staggering that we haven't really figured out?
The staggering of the terms, I mean, for me, as president here, I just sort of wonder, what is my term? When did it start and when is it supposed to be? You know, I'm not quite sure what that is, and you know, I don't have any problem in being in this position, but I don't want to assume that I'm the person to be in this position, and that none of the rest of you ever get to have this kind of fun. So
I think this is a Pope job, man. You're in it for life.
I don't know. After I saw that one entry annual report, I said, "Wow, the treasurer here is got it pretty good," you know. No, I'm just teasing, but I'm more concerned with that we don't end up spending time trying to explain to someone who has never been involved and only got involved to bust our chops over us not following our own bylaws. So, I mean, that's my whole reason for even bringing this up at this point in time. Bylaws are great, but if we're not following them, sooner or later, we're going to get our chops busted. And
So it feels like we just need to figure out the whole terms thing.
right.
And there's not much else in just scanning. There's not many other things in here.
Nope. Well, I mean, we need to figure out the term thing, and I think that at this point, particularly dependent upon what Shelley's response is back, having a good look at what our number is, and do we want to, you know, try to expand it from 5 to 7 so that when we do lose one, it's not quite as critical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if we should just say that we're going to go out to, if we look at someone gets a full 3 years, right? And then dial back 6 months and pick somebody and say, okay, your term ends at that 6 months, and then go back until we're out of members. Maybe it's every 3 months, but there's only, well, 5 of us, right?
Right. But I think the way our bylaws are written, that terms end or start with our annual meeting.
Mhm. That's correct.
So, you know,
As well as the acceptance of new members, like the application process and
Right.
New members, like when we brought Regina on at the annual meeting.
So it has to be in 1 year increments, right?
that's what it appears to me. Yes.
Okay, so we just need to divide up the current board members into ones that last 3 years, ones that last 2 years, and one last 1 year. I mean, I feel like realistically, whoever's on the 1-year one is probably going to re-up. I mean, or not, I guess, but like I would if it were me. They were, going to happen in a few months from now.
Well, I guess I would just like to schedule a work session and get that piece taken care of and put to bed so that we can all rest assured that we are indeed in compliance and following our bylaws. I don't think it would take a really long time, and I'd be happy to take at least a stab at putting some sort of a grid together as to what that would look like, so that we have a starting point.
That sounds good to me. I'd like to point out that I have a major problem with Section 10 compensation. Where's my check?
I think you need to speak to the treasurer and we'll see what the budget looks like. maybe we can hog more of the budget for compensation.
We might still have some HSD branded socks for you. We over ordered, so if that qualifies as compensation, you can have a couple pair.
I find enough compensation just from Dave's presence, let alone of the rest of the board.
Well, I'm just waiting for the day that we can all get together face to face again and we have this meeting at Pitchfork. So,
Amen.
Sometime, although I'm not sure how soon that sometime might be. So, anybody have any thoughts on when we should schedule that work session for? Do we want to just kick out a couple of weeks and get it done with, or do we want to kick out a month and get it done with?
For reference, our next regular meeting is April 1st.
Right.
I'm fine with getting it done either sooner rather than later. It doesn't matter.
I know what parent-teacher conferences are coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't think they're in February.
Should we look at somewhere around February 20th? February 18th. Oh, those are
The 11th and the 18th are parent-teacher conference nights.
18th.
Thanks, Erin.
Yep.
How about February the 25th?
That's our,
Well, we could do either the 4th or the 25th.
we have another district meeting on the 25th.
And the 4th.
Yeah, okay, and the 4th.
Is that the 4th of May? Or, I mean, sorry, March
Oh, I was looking at February.
or February. Okay.
You have district meetings on both the 4th and the 25th?
I could do
Oh, yeah.
Thursdays look rough now for a while. For Aaron and I, we have a lot of district level responsibilities that have been postponed due to COVID that are now starting to pop open. We're getting out there a bit. March 4th is the first one that we would have available where we don't have an evening commitment or it's not parent-teacher conferences.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you. Tuesdays work as well for me as Thursdays do. So is that any better for staff?
I have more Tuesdays available between now and then than Thursdays.
What about Tuesday, the 9th?
Looks like that's the school board candidate forum.
Yeah, we have a dance thing that night, so let's not do that.
The 23rd? Anybody okay with February 23rd?
Works for me. I'm easy though.
Melissa?
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, that didn't sound overly enthusiastic, but
I'm trying to, it's my daughter's birthday, but it's not like we're doing anything. So for an hour, I think it would be fine.
staff?
No, up to you.
It's good for me.
The
But
bylaws that we don't have on children's birthdays if it can be avoided.
you know,
All right, let's plan it for Tuesday, the 23rd. And earmark that 1 hour maximum, Sarah.
got it.
Melissa has to have time for a birthday party.
Just referring to our own bylaws that we have right now, I just want to get people's perspective on this, how this is going to play out. Now that I can't even find them. There's the very last piece about the amending our bylaws says that any proposed amendments need to be provided with 10 days notice, I believe.
10 or 30?
10 days.
10 days notice is what's in there currently. So I don't know if we need a meeting to come up with the amendments and then another meeting to approve them. Is that how you guys would read that then?
Would we approve them at the April regular meeting?
Oh, we could probably do that.
Like, that's kind of how I read it.
Sure. Does that sound reasonable to people that we'd come up with any proposed amendments at the 23rd meeting and then
Yes.
vote on them on April 1st? Okay. What time? Melissa, you get to pick the time.
The earlier the better would be for me. I suppose I should look at my work calendar, huh? Yeah, I mean 5 is fine. 5:30 is fine.
Tuesday, the 23rd at 5:30.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Any other business to come in front of the board? Peter, anything? Melissa? No? Sarah, anything on your end?
Thank you for your time, everyone. And we appreciate you. Thanks, Regina, for popping in. I saw you got in here. So let me know if you're having any trouble with the links or anything, Regina.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
No problem. Glad you could make it. But no, I'm just really thankful for you guys. Like I said to Stan when we met on Monday, the day-to-day piece that I'm working with is let's make sure everyone passes their courses. And, it's like when you sit down and think about these longer term pieces and how to build a really strong offering for kids, whether they're from Hudson or from afar. You know, keeping your eye on that longer term ball gets hard when you're in the thick of things, and to set aside time, you know, to think about like mission and vision and our self-assessment and all of this. I just appreciate all of you, and thanks for that. So
Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, and say also say thank you back to everybody else here.
I would agree with that, Peter. We do appreciate staff and the fact that our program is running, you know, from our perspective out here at a board level flawlessly. If there is anything that we can do to help, please don't ever hesitate to just shoot off a note and ask us. So we're all more than willing to help in any way that we can. So with those two details being addressed now, we have a motion to adjourn. Melissa, second.
Second.
We adjourn.